I'm Melissa Roberts, and I'm the founder and executive director of the American Flood Coalition. I'm thrilled to be here today speaking with Senator Markey. Good afternoon, Senator, and thank you for participating in this year's Public Finance Forum, where leaders from government, finance, and philanthropy are coming together to discuss how to deliver outcomes in the $4 trillion public finance sector. So far at this event, we've talked about the deployment of infrastructure funds under the American Rescue Plan and the funds to come under the Bipartisan Infrastructure Act. We've also heard discussions on the additional strategic investments needed to ensure the infrastructure that we build meets the long-term challenges of increasing extreme weather and the urgent imperative to ensure that these investments are both equitable and innovative. From infrastructure workforce to climate finance, you're advancing a number of ideas that address what leaders here at the forum see as critical gaps in building a stronger pipeline of resilience infrastructure projects. So let's start with the topic of workforce. You're the sponsor of the Civilian Climate Corps, a bill that's under consideration in the Senate right now. Can you share a little bit about the vision here for employing folks and also weigh in on the prospects for passage of this initiative and other climate resilient infrastructure elements of the Build Back Better bill?
Well, thank you. And thank you for having me join you today. This is a very important gathering that you have constructed. This is a historic inflection point. And obviously the climate crisis, brings both existential threats, but also historic opportunities to spur job growth, address historic environmental justice concerns. And to seize that opportunity, we will need every sector of the economy trained and ready to work in a clean economy. So the goal that we have with a Civilian Climate Corps in the reconciliation bill, in the Build Back Better bill, is to take a whole of government approach to create 300,000 new Civilian Climate Corps members who will be equipped to confront this crisis head on. And those members will build and deploy the resilient infrastructure necessary to fortify our communities. They'll be the boots on the ground that deploy clean energy, protect our forests, restore our wetlands, and complete energy efficiency projects. The program will be an engine for equity by employing a diverse generation of Americans and providing them with a living wage, good educational benefits, healthcare coverage, and training opportunities that place them on a pathway to good paying union jobs ultimately. And perhaps most importantly, the Civilian Climate Corps is designed to act in concert with all of our other climate provisions in the Build Back Better bill to provide a skilled workforce that will amplify climate efforts across all federal agencies while targeting underserved rural and urban communities to ensure benefits distributed to all Americans. So this is a very exciting concept. It's something that we think will absolutely excite a new generation of Americans who care about these issues in the same way the Peace Corps did in the 1960s. We think the same thing is going to be true for the Climate Corps, except the Climate Corps is going to be much, much bigger than the Peace Corps in terms of total personnel.
And picking up on that thread of rural and underserved communities that you mentioned, that's so important. We often hear in working with those communities that what they need is technical assistance and flexible funding to help de-risk projects and turn local challenges in their communities into project proposals that actually have a chance of getting grant funding and investment. We also hear from impact investors and institutional investors that there just aren't enough investable deals. So can you tell us a little bit about your LIFT bill and how it would tackle these issues?
Yeah, thank you. I think you're just so right about that. And what I've been able to include in the Build Back Better bill, and we got to get it to the floor of the Senate over the next couple of months. It's called the LIFT Act. And the LIFT Act will enable local communities, especially those in environmental justice regions, to access the historic infrastructure investments that we're making. And the LIFT Act is centered on the idea of funding pre-development activities, which occur before construction and include tasks like capacity building, pre-permitting, and drafting feasibility studies. If we award grants to local organizations to fund these activities, we can build a pipeline of climate infrastructure projects that municipal and philanthropic funds can invest in. And since we direct 50% of our funds to environmental justice communities, we will be attracting investment dollars into communities that need it the most, but see it the least. And the leverage opportunity here is tremendous. Every $1 spent by the LIFT Act can lead to $16 to $20 in economic benefits. And I'm proud to have this, provision inside of the Build Back Better bill right now. We can achieve our climate goals if the public and private sectors work together. I'm still baffled as to why we can't do this on a bipartisan basis. But nonetheless, it's in, and we're one vote short right now, and we're going to work hard to get it to ensure the Build Back Better goes to President Biden's desk. And as the CEO of the American Flood Coalition, Melissa, you deal with the consequences of climate change every day. And when Mother Nature strikes from a climate-induced disaster, she doesn't really discriminate between Democrats and Republicans. So we all suffer. And the polling on this issue is incredible in terms of how much public support there is for these initiatives, which is why we have to get it passed. And my hope is that we can do so in a telescope timeframe. LIFT is just a great idea. Every dollar unleashes $16 to $20 of economic activity. So I think it's just the right kind of approach.
Yeah, it's great to hear about that vision. And we do see in flooding in the communities we work with, flooding does not care about jurisdictional boundaries, and it doesn't care about political differences, right? Everyone's kind of facing the consequences. And I know you had mentioned the role of private capital. And I know a lot of folks at the forum were watching at COP26 when we saw a number of multi-trillion-dollar commitments for private capital to invest in ESG and resilient climate infrastructure deals. So can you share more against that backdrop of your idea for the Clean Energy Accelerator and how it would attract trillions in sidelined capital, and specifically how it could encourage more of this resilient climate infrastructure we need in the US?
Okay, and again, that's a great question. And again, already inside the Build Back Better bill is it's something called the Greenhouse Gas Reduction Fund. And it's based on my national climate bank bill, okay, which is probably a simpler way of explaining it. It's a climate bank. And as it is drafted and included in the bill, it would direct the Environmental Protection Agency to provide $21 billion to nonprofit organizations that are designed to provide capital, including by leveraging private capital and other forms of financial assistance for the rapid deployment of low and zero emission products and technologies. 40% of this 21 billion, or about $8 billion of these funds, will be dedicated to low income and disadvantaged communities. And the program would also direct the EPA to provide an additional $7.5 billion in grants to state and local and tribal governments and to eligible recipients for rooftop solar and other greenhouse gas emission reduction activities. There are two important points I'd like to make about the bank. First, the bank allows for innovation. Anything is eligible as long as it's reducing greenhouse gas. So the bank, Accelerator, call it what you want, could be used to fund renewables, carbon capture, EV charging, low-income housing, retrofits, or other clean energy technologies. And that means it can target the sectors that are needed most in our fight to reduce economy-wide emissions by 50% from 2005 levels by 2030. And the bank can also leverage other policies like clean energy tax credits to generate additional emissions reduction. And second, the bank generates leverage to multiply private sector investments in clean technologies. If done right, a national climate bank accelerator can leverage $1 in public money, which we'll provide, into $7 or $8 of additional private money and public money over a 10-year time frame. So I think that's an incredible opportunity. And we're seeing that there are green banks, climate banks now popping up all across the country at a county level, city level, statewide level. This would just nationalize it. And we do know that once that public money is put up, because it helps to de-risk, then you see much more private sector money move in substantial amounts.
And against the backdrop of all of these opportunities that you're talking about, I want to put these in context for folks here at the forum. So in 2009, when you were still a member of the US House of Representatives, your very well-known climate finance bill, Waxman-Markey, passed the House and got stalled in the US Senate. Now you're in the US Senate and the House approved investments in climate resilient infrastructure are up in the air. So what sort of context would you give people? What's your take on this situation? And is there a deal to be done on resilient investments?
Well, for the next week or so, we're going to be working on voting rights here in the United States Senate. I mean, there is a real challenge to democracy, which is taking place in state after state where restrictive voting rights laws are passing, suppressing the votes of Black and brown communities. So we're going to be working on that right up to Martin Luther King Day, trying to focus on this and having an historic vote on the Senate floor. But that can't detract from our need to resolve the remaining issues inside the Build Back Better, inside the reconciliation bill. We need 50 votes. And we've been discussing and negotiating since last summer. And the climate and energy crises have only gotten worse. So we should pass these climate provisions right now. Joe Manchin last Monday said, I think that the climate thing is the one that we can probably come to agreement much easier than anything else in the Build Back Better bill. So from my perspective, we should use that then as the foundation for a Build Back Better agreement. And then if we should add on as many other provisions as is possible. But time is of the essence. The president is going to be delivering the State of the Union address on January 1st. We have to go through the remaining substantive negotiations, but then there are procedural issues that we have to go through, including all of the bird bath related issues, meaning that the parliamentarian just has to make decisions with regard to any provision being able to pass parliamentary objections. So we have to give ourselves the time to do it. I think we should start now, use climate as the basis, taking Joe Manchin at his word, and then add in as many other provisions as is possible. For example, on free pre-K to all 3- and 4-year-olds, or home care for seniors who are sick. We just need to provide that kind of a foundation, though, using the climate portions of this bill, which he says are the easiest to finally resolve, and do that quickly. Time is of the essence. We have to finish. That's going to be my goal over the next couple of weeks.
Well, on that note, Senator Markey, thank you so much for your time, and thank you everyone for joining us.
No, thank you for having me. It's been a great honor. Thank you.